All right, what's up, everyone? So in this episode, right, I will be covering a alternative investment piece. Now, folks are probably wondering, why am I covering an alternative investment piece? Isn't this crypto grinders where you only talk about crypto, where you only invest in crypto? No, guys. When I started the channel, obviously with the intention in mind to bring crypto and bring educating about investing and trading in crypto to the masses. But at the end of the day, we also have to realize that the market is now stabilizing. It's on a slower growth pace. I think I kind of like where the crypto space is headed at the moment, but at the end of the day, things are going to slow down. The market is now transitioning towards custodial services, asset management, lending, and at the same time, the crypto space is kind of slowing down in a good way. Slowing down in a good way where you're going to allow institutional funds and high net worth investors to start coming to look into the space because the prices are just much more stable, attractive and much more stable. So that's kind of like where I'm headed and where I like to kind of move my clients towards as well, because nobody likes to see their portfolio suddenly have 30% a 30% drop overnight or even a course of a few weeks. It is really a very nerve-wracking feeling. Okay, so if this space needs to be taken seriously, I think it's always good to kind of identify certain cryptocurrencies that have found a certain level of stability. So the piece that I'm doing today is nothing to do with crypto. It is clearly an alternative investment piece that I personally am building up. And just very quickly, if you're watching this video and you're not interested in alternative investments other than crypto, quickly just stop this video so that you don't waste any time. But for folks who are interested in an alternative investment piece, or at least looking at alternative investments, I think this is a very, very good place to start, as in on a personal perspective, because Magic the Gathering, where we're calling it MTG Finance, I plan to want to do this on a perhaps monthly basis, where I kind of update about what I feel would be great pieces to talk about, especially why are people buying the reserve list cards, why are folks buying certain expansions or certain cards that will help them to have a return over investment. And of course, there's going to be certain playability. Now take note, full disclaimer, this is non-financial advice. This is just something fun that I've always liked to do. I always look at content that I must be happy to do as well. And at the same time, if my viewers who are interested in episodes like this, they can just kind of tune in, and it kind of gives them a little bit of an alternative insight, or at least a different perspective about investments. Because investments, I think, fall into a few categories. You have the traditional financial investments, for example, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, derivatives. Derivatives, I wouldn't say that they are investment pieces, but I would say that on a speculative note, it can be used for hedging. So at least derivatives are great for hedging. They could be considered short to medium term investment pieces. Give me a second, guys. All right, so making sure that just so you know, and just take note that I'm looking at Magic the Gathering as an alternative investment piece, and I'm going to be building this portfolio very gradually. I am someone who used to play the game when I was in my early teens, so that was when I was 13 years old, right? And at the time, I didn't have much money. It's really just buying pack for pack. So one pack was anywhere from $3.50 to $4 to even $5. That was all I could afford. It was a once a week thing. I think it was more of the fun of playing it. So the game has actually matured and has a total, and in terms of the size, okay, so here's the thing, right? The game has been around for 20 over years. Okay, we're talking about from the 1993 till now. Okay, I think that already represents a huge part of the success of the game. Okay, it's like you starting out in Bitcoin back in 2008, 2009, where you bought your very first Bitcoin. You were very receptive. You were either open to selling your products or services for Bitcoin, which is very, very open-minded, very visionary, and maybe you were just having fun. And through interacting with folks where I was buying my cards this year, especially from either from an online store to people that in Singapore, and I realized that there were certain folks that were actually into Bitcoin relatively early as well, and I'm like, okay, this is a very nice correlation. There's a very nice relationship happening here. Now, obviously, folks who are in property that I've spoken to also bought Bitcoin very early. So those who bought Bitcoin very early, they were able to cash out at various points when they actually saw Bitcoin move up very astronomically in 2017. That gave them that capital to look into buying property. So it really depends on what you're looking at and what's your objective. So I kind of like have had the privilege to kind of meet these people. And these people are, folks who are either professionals in a particular industry, or they're entrepreneurs or business owners, and it's really a wide spectrum. So the players in Magic the Gathering, right? Same thing, man. They have been playing the game for anywhere from 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, whatever it is. And they gradually grew to love the game because it's such a community-based driven game. When I stepped back in, it's like everyone was willing to help, and not like willing to help because they wanted to sell me cards, but they were willing to help me understand the game. They were even willing to lend me their deck, right? A deck of cards, obviously, to start playing the game. So I felt that, wow, it's such a welcoming, warm community. Whereas crypto is kind of like the same, right? Because everybody wants to help each other, but there's always a certain level of competitiveness, trash talk, Bitcoin core, so on and so forth. And by the way, guys, when you watch this episode, it's going to be very interchangeable because, like I said, I'm still very much bullish on Bitcoin. I'm now just looking at alternative investments, and I think alternative investments help to slow down, pace myself, have some room to breathe. And I wanted to do something that I like. I like to enjoy the process of doing it, and being that it's a card game and it's very nostalgic for me, right? Although I'm buying way higher. I'm considered the all-time high buyer at this kind of point. But when I realized that okay, if the game can be around for 20 over years, right? And of course, right now Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, and right now the direction is always about bottom line revenue, and that's the part about this episode that you're going to start learning as well, that when you look at an investment piece, okay, the crypto space is just so vast, right? There are many companies coming on board building something, whereas Magic the Gathering is owned by one sole company, which is Hasbro. So there are risks involved that I will talk about, especially if you want to journey into actually building your collection, okay, if it's even an option for you. And when you build Magic the Gathering as an alternative investment, you want to enjoy the game. I think you want to enjoy at least the artwork, the lore, or at least the history of how the game came about, and then you'll really enjoy it. If you just took it from a monetary standpoint, I would highly suggest that you don't do it, because if you do that, the risk to reward and the time horizon involved is definitely not going to be favorable for you, because this is a way slower market. It's as if you're investing in a property, like for real. You're not going to see big jumps. I can even give you the numbers of what I've purchased in the beginning of the year. We're talking about February, beginning of the year. Just really started fresh and clean, guys. I just decided, okay, put a very small percentage of whatever profits that I made in crypto and just park it into Magic the Gathering. So far, so good. Okay, I've not lost money, but I've not made serious, crazy cash, right? Because I'm not into the speculative aspect, which there is as well, because there is a speculative aspect in Magic the Gathering. So I'm going to start covering in a very sequential Ryan Lai manner. So people who know me know that I don't cover things very well in sequence. It's all here. It's very off the cuff, off the hip, whatever you want to call it. So bear with me, and I hope that you enjoy the episode. So guys, right now, right, there is the various folks who want to buy and look at Magic the Gathering. I think if you haven't played the game, right, there is an online version called MTG Arena. This is pretty much to kind of compete with Hearthstone. So Hearthstone is a very popular game by Blizzard, right? They created World of Warcraft. I think folks who used to play WoW kind of will know this, and they will eventually transition. I think it's always nice to always have an online related version. Now, of course, Magic the Gathering has Magic the Gathering Online, which is a sucky, ugly version of MTG Arena. MTG Arena actually has quite a bit of sponsorship, a lot of eyeballs that have actually brought players into the traditional card game, which is very interesting because Magic the Gathering started as a trading card game. We're talking about real interaction, guys. Right? Real interaction. Nothing of the sort of and yes, this is the part that why I came back into it, because I miss the one-to-one interaction. I do not like typing my thoughts. Guys. I hate communicating with people over WhatsApp, Telegram, or whatever. I hate it. That's why I always do videos, right? Whether they're edited, unedited, I just prefer doing videos. I think my expression, my body language, my tonality, you immediately know where I'm coming from. But on a message, right? And this is a little bit off tangent, but don't you agree that when you type a message, it's very selfish? Why do I say that? Because when you type a message, it's always based on your own personal, attitude, your own attitude, your emotion at that point of time. And if that individual has a different kind of emotion, he or she will read it in a very different way as well. And that's when a miscommunication happens. So I kind of want to cut all that shit out, right? And, start interacting. Start meeting people and having a game with them. And that we can talk over coffee, wine, and just enjoy ourselves. And that was really one of the major objectives. I really don't really care too much about the money part, but I just want to let you know that there is a money part because the secondary market is very healthy. And I'm going to go into that. But let me cover the beginning part of the journey first. So right now, if you were someone who is completely new and you have no idea what I'm talking about, this space has grown, right? We're talking about at least maybe 20 million players conservatively internationally. Now, wow, if you say that there are 20 million players, right, internationally, and we're talking about, of course, students who, and in this game is, of course, 13 years old and above, you can start playing it. There is the formats where you have standard, modern, legacy, vintage, old school, commander, right? So let's not get too technical. And just so you know, I'm not a damn good player. I'm just starting out again, right? And I just want to learn. I just want to have fun. So you can approach it in that way because, like I said, guys, crypto is slowing down. You're not going to make that crazy 25x, 20x in a matter of days. It's not going to happen anymore. So it's good to kind of like settle down and say, hey, maybe there's something to do. Maybe there's something that we can interact with. So as I was saying, there's MTG Arena and MTG Online. MTG Arena is just a very nice version of the game. So you can just type MTG Arena and then you can see, oh wow, it's a very nice version. It's with animation and stuff like that. Very good when the cards are coming out and you can draft decks. It's free to play. Obviously, there's a paid portion as well. Okay, so that has actually driven more people into the trading card game, right? I think people do genuinely miss that interaction. And why I was talking about the messages and everything like that, because I still feel that a message, or at least, verbal communication is the best. There's no two ways about it, sure. I know that there's ways of communicating over conference and sealing deals over conferences, but there's nothing like flying over and meeting that someone and showing that level of sincerity and genuineness, right? That is what always closes. That is always what helps me close deals, guys. Really, online stuff, I usually kind of tone down less of. I do less of it. So now, with that being said, right, there's a lot of money being poured into the space. Now, e-games, e-sports are very, very big. So it was kind of nice to know that despite the fact, right, that people were commenting that this game was about to die because of MTG Arena, was the direct opposite. In fact, you see more people playing the game, or at least players who are new. They realize, oh, okay, there's a trading card game, and this is a very popular game in the US, in Europe. You're talking about Italy, France, Belgium. This is the Europe side. Then you have the US side. You have Canada, Australia. You practically can find a local game store, right, or a major game store in your country, right? Okay, but guys, this is a relatively expensive game as compared to you playing an online game. So don't relate the two. So now that you kind of understand where I'm coming from, there's also the aspect of new expansions that come out every month. Now, this is the part where it's the cash grab from the corporate side, new mechanics, you know, so on and so forth. I don't want to get too much into that. But to give you a gist, there's something new every month. Haha, sounds very familiar, right? It's just like a new cryptocurrency or new company that wants to issue their token, whether it's some kind of stable coin or some kind of whatever new age blockchain related revolutionary solution. Sounds familiar, huh? So everything is correlated, guys. So that happens every month. Okay, so what has been happening? You know, when I came on board, it was the modern War of the Spark, Modern Horizons, and now it's Corset 2020. I think Commander 2019 is coming out soon. After that, there's Throne of Eldraine. So I was like, okay, wow, this is quite mind-blowing. There's really so many things. It's like me coming in to crypto and realizing, wow, there's 2,000 over altcoins. Should I buy everything? No, I wasn't that dumb. I did buy one or two to just kind of get that experience of opening stuff up because it's very affordable for me now. But don't do it if you're looking at investing. Now, here's the part. Okay, so let me get into the portfolio building part. All right. So let's go into the reserve list. Okay, this is the bread and butter, guys. This is the part that maybe it will perk you up a little bit because these cards are not cheap. They are not your entry level. As quoted by Alpha Investments Rudy, right? The Timmies, no way the Timmies are gonna afford this because this is per card. A piece of cardboard can be worth anywhere from depending, a few $100s to a few $1,000s to a few tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, and yes, the Black Lotus is the most coveted price card at the moment. In fact, it is a very strong investment piece. And like I said, guys, I own luxury watches. I think that's kind of a little bit of my favorite. But you know what? Sometimes having a piece of luxury cardboard ain't such a bad idea as well. So that being said, you may like your Patés, your Rolexes, your Audemars Piguets. I think I want to kind of look at the old school stuff, and that's kind of like where I'm trending to. I haven't actually donked any money into the Power 9. Okay, so the Power 9 are basically these top cards. So the Black Lotus, the Mox Emerald, Mox Pearl, Time Twister, Ancestral Recall, Mox Ruby, Time Walk, Mox Sapphire, Mox Jet, and I think that's all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you see the Time Twister is so-called the Power 10. Okay, but the Power 9 are these few. Okay, so these 9 cards, right, are basically very much used in the legacy, vintage, or old school Magic format. Okay, this is the high-end side. If you want to compare, that's the Lambo Club, the Mercedes, BMW, Lambo, Ferrari Club. Okay. So that's pretty much that, and everything in between. Okay, and everything in between. So I don't want to get too much into that because then after the whole episode becomes very draggy. Now you must be thinking, so Ryan, isn't it pretty straightforward? I'll just get the Power 9 if I want to just have it as an investment piece. Sure, you can and you probably should, because these cards, right, have a very low print run. There is a supply problem, right? Firstly, in Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins, right? The beauty of it is that there is going to be a fixed supply. After that, that's it, right? But now till then, right, because it's an international market, I'm not saying that Magic isn't an international market, but being that it's a financially accessible, it's very easy to buy and sell in large quantities. Whereas if you were to step into the whole MTG arena, or at least the old traditional trading card games, you can't buy 20, right, or 30 or 50,000 pieces of a Black Lotus, even if you were damn rich. Firstly, there's condition issues, authenticity issues. Yeah, these are things that you have to consider, because condition of the card, we're talking about something that's 20 over years old, a piece of cardboard, guys. All right, so kind of like, oh, okay. Can you imagine, right? If you really thought about securing your Bitcoins, right? You want to have your cold wallet. You want to make sure that it's all secure. Your passphrase, you have put it out in multiple different books or whatever. Wherever you decide to keep your passphrase, you want to keep it secure. Same thing, man. If you live in a country that has 4 seasons, okay, and somehow the where you're storing the cards isn't in a proper it doesn't have climate control, as they say. Your cards could become moldy, guys. It could be moldy. It could be subject to moisture, obviously, dust, dirt, a rat biting it. A lot of shit can happen. Like a lot of shit. We're talking about insects potentially could even, if it gets moldy, it attracts, right? And and there are insects that eat paper, right? Or wood, right? You have termites and so on and so forth. That could happen. So it's pretty nerve-wracking, guys. If you have a really decent collection, and yes, I know folks who have the collections in the millions. And this was over time. This is either they acquired it relatively recently, as in the past few years, and then there is the folks who have been in this for the donkeyest number of years, meaning that they were folks who were playing around the time that I was a teen, and they were teens as well, and they just gradually just grew with the game. That's the dedication, and those are the ones that have made the easy money, as per se. But if the easy money is made, then why are you telling me about this space, Ryan? Well, I'm just letting you know that there's always a demand. As long as there's a healthy, growing community, right? And these are keywords that you can relate back to crypto as well, and the various cryptocurrencies that you're buying, you will realize it's the same, man. You are looking for the same thing. You're looking for active development. You're looking for a growing community. You're looking for people who become mature and actually stay faithful and dedicated to that particular aspect, investment, or whatever. Okay, it's the same, right? And it will never disappear overnight. Now, this is the part where it gets a little bit political. The reserve list, okay, which is what you're looking at right now, these cards will never be reprinted ever again. Okay, it can be reprinted as a kind of a different variation. Apparently, sometimes, right, the creative folks in Wizards of the Coast, they did try to replicate the card in a different manner, but it received a lot of backlash because the reserve list policy clearly states that there will be no reprint of these particular cards in that manner. It will never happen. Okay, it will never happen. So for that, it has kind of retained the value of these respective cards, and over time. So I mean, just for simplicity's sake, let's just pick one. Okay, let's just pick one. Let's just pick the Black Lotus just to get everyone a little bit more on the excited side. So, I mean, everybody knows how to see charts. I mean, especially my guys in crypto, they know how to see charts. They know exactly what it means. So, this is the chart of the price of the Black Lotus Unlimited Edition. Now, there are a total of 3 editions: Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, or they say ABU for short, right? Then Revised has no Power 9. Okay, Revised is only the dual lens. Let's not go too much into that. First, let's just talk about the Black Lotus first. So the Black Lotus, as you can see, right, was already $1,000, guys, in 2010, and this is a game, obviously, back in 1993. The Black Lotus was already there, right? And I think the Black Lotus was, I think maybe less than $50, right? For folks who kind of, were even playing the game. Like, no one really thought about it because everybody just wanted to have fun. You're just playing a game. You never knew whether the game would last, past 2 years. Let's be very honest. A lot of the companies that I've seen at the moment in the crypto space are no longer around, right? So, very much the same mentality, right? You are buying just to have fun. You have no intention that you will ever, in a million years, at that point of time, you would think that this would make you money. You would never think that way, right? Property, yes. Property is an essential thing. Everybody needs a home. But I don't know, man. When you talk about a card game, when you talk about crypto at the end of the day, it's always very 50-50. Whether you really need it, it's always a matter of convenience and how savvy the country is, or the people within that country. Same thing. Magic the Gathering is also known as one of the most complex games in the world. Okay, that means if you are someone who really loves this kind of interaction and high level play, Magic the Gathering is definitely for you, right? So that's the aspect. So this website, MTG Goldfish, kind of started out in 2010, I assume, right? That's why it only has data up to 2010. So if you wanted to find earlier data, you really couldn't, because at the time the secondary market wasn't that vibrant. Like, how would you even buy? So apparently, from what I found out, is that there's gonna be a few places where they will get the data from, because these are known as the larger card shops. So there's Card Kingdom, eBay, of course, and then after that there's TCG Player, and then there's another one called Star City Games. So all these are the big boys, right? They are the ones that have the most supply. They have the people will just sell to them. It's a little bit easier. And then after that, it comes to people like Rudy from Alpha Investments, and then you have people like Vintage Magic, and they are the ones that kind of like buy and sell cards also on a peer-to-peer level. So same thing like crypto, there are the big exchanges like Huobi, Binance, OKX, so on and so forth. And then after you have the OTC desk, right? The OTC desk are also considered brokers as well. That could potentially give you a better deal occasionally. It depends on what is their initial price premium or how much they acquired those particular cards. So you can see that it's a very vibrant market, very active, very mature. Same thing. Right now, if you were to buy, you have a few choices. You can also go to your local, like for me, I usually kind of buy my stuff occasionally here as well, which is a Facebook group in Singapore, right? And yeah, that's where you start meeting people. You message them, hey man, I'm interested in this card. What is it like? Same thing, right? You're also wondering whether or not your number one concern, at least for me, is like, is this guy credible, right? Is this guy having a card that is not a counterfeit? Right? What's the condition of the card? And if you're going to be donking a few $100 to a few $1,000, you do not want to be in the situation where you don't know your stuff. You need to at least know basic authentication. How do you authenticate the card? When you talk about digital assets, obviously you don't have to worry too much about that, because the exchanges kind of took care of that aspect. There's no such thing as a fake token. Yes, there are people who get confused, right? Because there was a portion of the time when there was Bitcoin private, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin whatever, right? It really confused a lot of people, right? So for those who really didn't know what the heck they were buying, I've heard stories where people actually sold a different variation of Bitcoin to someone else. And yeah, they charged a premium for it, and they were none the wiser. They actually bought a token that is actually quite worthless, right? Or not in demand. They thought they were buying Bitcoin, but actually they were buying an alternative of that. That's why it's very confusing. Same thing, right? In this space, if you do step into it, you need to have, people that are willing to guide you. So I was very blessed through my acquisition of cards, I managed to meet a few key people that I could say, hey, I could rely on them, and they would be very, very much helpful to kind of help me acquire my collection. So that's how it works, guys. And of course, naturally, if you want to buy it, you can just go to Card Kingdom. If you're really very worried, right? Star City Games, eBay, it really depends, because eBay, you need to see the level of interaction, the number of sales that they are doing. There are folks who actually have fake accounts. So these fake accounts are bought from other. Maybe for example, they managed to buy the account from a previous eBay seller. And then from then, right, that previous eBay seller had a very nice number of sales that they did before. So however they acquired the account, I really do not know, right? I haven't gone too deep into it. But that's the concern also, because if you see that, oh my goodness, this guy has quite a number of sales, and he's offering you a card on eBay. Let's say, for example, let's say if you look at this list of cards, right? And let's say you say, oh, Dave and Adams. Okay, so you click on Dave and Adams. This clearly shows that this guy has done 124,756. This is reviews, by the way. This is the total number of feedback. But of course, he's done a lot more in terms of transactions, because this is an actual store in the US. Oh, and by the way, folks in the US, right, Europe, I think you have it that much easier, because you're going to be able to buy it with very low shipping costs. So another thing about this is the cost. As you can see, if this was to be shipped to me, a card like that, right, I have to pay $23 on top. That means I'm paying a 30% premium just to acquire this card. So if you want to say you want to make solid money, you're not going to make any money anytime soon. Okay, you're not going to make any money anytime soon, because you already paid a 30% premium just to acquire this card. This card is, let's say if it's $100, you're going to pay 30%. Give me a second, guys. My daughter is coming back. As I can say, like I said, this is a very noisy home at the same time. I don't have the privilege of having a quiet home all the time. But yeah, I want to do the episode now, because if I did it in the evening when everyone is asleep, I'll be too tired already and I cannot focus. So shh, can you please keep quiet? Okay, so right now, right, as I was saying, so right now there's that aspect of acquiring your cards. When you buy tokens, right, at the end of the day, they're not backed up by much. Okay, when you buy tokens, they are backed up either by revenue, profit, or some kind of asset. Right now, there is 0 tokens that are backed up by a particular asset. And if a token is backed up by a particular asset, there is going to be regulatory framework and licensing that particular company has to go through. So it is very important to kind of identify if a token is backed up by an asset, the speculative value goes down tremendously, because you want to peg it, or at least you want to monitor or identify that particular asset class's price movement. For example, if a token is backed up by a certain property within a certain country in a certain area, you want to track what's the growth and what's the overall sales that is being done for that particular property in that area, and what's the growth rate. From there, that should reflect directly on the token. You're not going to suddenly see 30% increase, 50% increase, because you're trying to tell me that that asset is moving at that pace as well. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely. Okay, so same thing. Right now, the Magic the Gathering space has kind of slowed down. It is very slow paced, guys. If you look at the charts, right? If you look at, let me put it out in terms of a time frame for you. This is in years. Can you see that how long, right, the card has been trending around the 5,000 to 7,900? It's still decent, guys. If you look at it, it's still 50% growth, but it's slow. It's 50% in terms of growth over the last 5 years. Okay, the keyword here is the time horizon. So if you're someone who doesn't understand that money has to grow in a slow manner, right? Don't compare it to business revenue or your turnover or whatever. This is not for you to do a quick flip. It's for you to retain value, right? That means you do not want to put your cash in the bank and earning a measly interest. These are the things that you potentially could look at now. Obviously, there is no such thing as a guaranteed return. Definitely not in these kind of cards as well. There is a so-called long-term growth for sure, especially in reserve list cards. Now I know that people will be like, okay, Ryan, since you mentioned that the reserve list cards are looking pretty good, perhaps I'll look at the cheapest reserve list cards. Now take note, right? The cheapest reserve list cards don't necessarily go up in value at all. Now this is the part that gets a little bit technical, so for those who actually have stayed on, and are even still watching after 33 minutes, okay, this is the part where it gets a little bit more technical, the meta. Now, what is the meta? Why is it important? The meta helps you to determine how valuable the cards will potentially be over time or potentially in the future. Okay, so what is the meta? Let me just go to this. So, the meta is what kind of decks are being played on a tournament level, okay? This is Vintage, Legacy, Modern, Standard. Now, Vintage and Legacy is kind of like where I usually monitor, because if I'm buying reserve list cards, I want to take note on Vintage, Legacy, and of course, eventually Old School. Old School is a non-format. It's like you don't see them. They play at such a high level that, there's no point creating a convention or game around it, because there'll be so few players that will bother to come together. And honestly, folks, high net worth individuals don't really care too much about coming together to play and grind and earn prize money. They are rich enough. They won't bother to come together. They can come together to enjoy, but they're not going to come together with the intention of paying a fee, and it's quite unlikely. So the Vintage, Legacy, yeah, sure, maybe. There seems to be a format around it. People will play it, have fun, enjoy. It's like I said, it's like playing a game of chess, guys. So the Vintage and Legacy formats, right? You can see the meta here. Okay, so for example, there are only 3 types of archetypes. So we call it archetypes like aggro, control, combo. So aggro, control, combo, naturally they are going to have a certain set of cards that will continuously be used. So let me just click on one And then after that, you kind of will start to see and bring everything together. So let's just say, this guy. Okay, I don't know these people, but these are the cards that are being used. Okay, so if you're someone who is very technical, you like statistics and numbers, you kind of just want to narrow it down. Like for example, okay, let's say you look at the lands. So the lands are like, for example, Bayou, Tropical Island, Underground Sea, So these are the cards that are in the reserve list. Okay, Black Lotus is here as well. Okay, and you have the Ancestral Recall, so on and so forth. Okay, I mean, I'm just giving you an example, guys. So from then you see, okay, so this is the meta for, vintage. These are the cards. Same thing. After that, you just go to perhaps Legacy. You click, and then you slowly just see, what are the decks being used? Let's say you look at Death and Taxes, for example. Death and Taxes is, by the way, the theme of the deck, guys. Okay, you can name it whatever. You can name it whatever. Okay, really, you can name it whatever. So let's say you look at Death and Taxes, and then you click on Death and Taxes, the latest guy, the win rate, so on and so forth. It's quite fun, by the way. And then you see, okay, the lands are Scrub Land, which is also a reserve list card, so on and so forth. Then you just kind of identify. The moment you start identifying, you say, okay, so these cards are the ones. Pretty much you just buy those cards, guys. It's like really quite no-brainer. You don't want to make it too complex at the beginning. But if you want to have fun, obviously you have to buy other cards that may not be as, valuable, right? But they have a certain price. So there are people who speculate. So folks who speculate, right? Those are pretty high risk because firstly, when I say high risk, because you need to understand it as a player, or at least you understand the demand. So there are folks, and I've seen cards that were $5, they became $10. I was like, okay. And this is, by the way, this year. Cards that were $5 became $10 is 100% ROI, guys. But same thing. Can you buy enough of it, right? And offload it onto the market? This is a very peer-to-peer kind of thing, right? If you include shipping, shipping, and then after that paying the platform, because whenever you use a particular platform, especially if you're selling stuff online, there is a cut that the platform will take, right? Because it drives traffic, it creates eyeballs for your particular card. And when you think about it, like, if it's $5 and I'm gonna, make 100% ROI, I have to still deliver the card, and okay, so before I go into that, right, I know that people love buying a lot of tokens, like a lot. Like I can get 1 million tokens, I'll go and buy 1 million tokens, and hopefully each one becomes $1. Okay? In this space, people kind of think along the same lines as well. I will buy up as many of these $1 cards or 50-cent cards and hope that it goes to $5, $10 or $2. Now, my next question to you is, how do you offload? How do you sell? Are you a shop? Are you a very reputable seller? Are you willing to run around the island? Because most people only buy 4. No one is going to be crazy enough to buy the whole thing from you. And if you are planning to offload the whole thing, be ready to offload at a slight discount from the market price. Because whatever you see on these major card stalls, they have already built that reputation. Whenever they buy, so another thing, if you're selling to a major card shop, right, you're gonna get holds like 30% down to even 50% down. Okay, that means when you intend to sell them, it's like 30 to 50% down. The reason why you even do that is because you've been around in the market for a long time. That means you have been a collector. We don't say investor. We a collector come player for a very long time. We're talking about at least a few years. Okay, a few years is the wrong term. 5 years or above. And you bought the card so early that your ROI is already 200, 300, 400%, that you don't mind them, buying at 50% of the current market price or 30% from the current market price. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, obviously you start selling in your community, because there are people who over time, they get richer, they become more affluent, and they want to come back into the game. Like myself, I want to come back to the game. I have to pay that premium. I'm not going to say, hey man, can you sell me at the 1993, 94 price? No. Obviously, it ain't going to happen. No one is going to be dumb enough to do that, right? So you're not going to make huge amounts of money. The people who have been in it the longest are going to make the huge amounts of ROI and money. That's the bottom line. So if you kind of learn how to identify and you kind of segregate your portfolio in such a manner, right? You start identifying these kind of trends and everything like that. It gets very fun. And that's why I kind of like want to start doing this episode. Now, obviously, folks who've been watching, wow, okay, there's actually 17 people watching. Oh, okay, I'm actually very impressed there are even 17 people. Thank you, and guys, thank you for watching, guys. I mean, I'm pretty serious about this aspect. But take note, this is less than 5% of my overall portfolio. Like really 5%. In fact, it's less than 5%. But I'm enjoying the process. I really want to start connecting with people, and who knows, man? I'm a competitive person. If I start playing the game and I start enjoying it, I might actually start traveling and playing around the country just for fun. I've never been a good player for anything. I love playing computer games, but I've never been competitive. I play things for enjoyment, to relax, really. And that's how I'm going to approach this, right? And I wanted to have something to enjoy. I didn't want to have something that, you buy something and then after you either rent it out and you get a cash flow. I don't always want to think that way. Naturally, when you buy cards, right, a tangible item, there's no way that you're going to have any passive income. There's no such thing. It's growth or nothing, okay? Or at least there's retention of value. So to start, look at the reserve list cards. Look at what people are buying, and one thing I wanna value add to you guys. Look at what's being sold on eBay, right? Look at what's being sold on eBay. Check the number of transactions and availability. So, for example, I noticed that certain reserve list cards, especially the dual lands, have been dropping of late, and in terms of price as well. So let's say, for example, I am looking at buying the Tropical Island. So the Tropical Island, especially if you're looking at the revised edition, right? Revised edition is considered third edition, is $319 per card, or $300. But you look at it, there's quite a bit of stock. Now, 3 months ago, there was not much stock available. So there is a certain level of manipulation as well, where sometimes the card shops, they will hold the stock, right, and not put too much out there to kind of drive up the price. And then after that, they realize, oh, the demand is dropping. Now, why is the demand dropping? Let me quickly just go into that as well. So apparently there are cheaper. Okay, sorry. Give me a second. Okay, wait. Let me see. There are cheaper alternatives. Okay, there are cheaper alternatives that are a fraction of the price. So for example, let me just give you the same context here. Okay, I'll try to be as layman as possible. Okay. So let's say, for example, this is considered a dual land. This dual land is only $15. Compared to the dual land that people... Oh, shit. Okay, wait. Give me a second. Compared to the dual land that I know, okay? Compared to the dual land that I know, which is $287. Now, take note. People want to have less complications and they want to be the most efficient when they play. This is a dual land because it gives you two colors of mana, black and green. So don't get to it. There are a total of 5 colors. Okay, there are a total of 5 colors. These mana is used to, of course, cast a spell, summon a creature or something like that, right? So this is very simple. I put this land out. I can tap for black and green. Okay, there's no penalty. Now, when I buy a cheaper version, do you notice that I have to pay 2 life, or I cannot use it immediately? Do you see the lack of efficiency here? It is not engineered to be that efficient, which is very interesting because as the game matures, right, apparently the later versions will always have some kind of restriction because they want to protect the old cards. Okay, they want to protect the old cards. So it gets very interesting. This is the part where I realized, hey, technology is always advancing. You want to have better technology over time. No one's going to care about the old versions. But I look at it, your smartwatch is obviously more efficient than a Rolex complication. Okay? But why is a Rolex worth more than an Apple smartwatch? Because of the complication. Okay? You want to make it as simple as possible. Now, for the card game, right? And I hope I'm getting this right, and I'm not going to be I don't want to offend many people. But when I look at the old school games, right, they were more efficient. right? As in the old school format, sorry. If you play in the old school format, everything is efficient. It is meant to deal damage the fastest and win the game in the fastest amount of time. Whereas when you come to the older, younger formats, right, with standard and modern, you have the same thing, but it's not going to be as efficient. So I realized that, okay, so players, right, especially based on affordability, will tweak, and the demand and supply goes up and down over time. Now this card, okay, let's say if we look at this card, was, oh my goodness, my kid is so noisy. Okay, so this card was below $10 at the time. Now it's the ROI is just not fantastic, right? There was a sharp spike, and this sharp spike was due to the fact that there was a lot of crypto being sold, and it's coming back into the market again. So right now you'll see that your ROI is really not fantastic, guys. Almost slightly more than double. But when you look at the time frame, the time frame is a little bit long. So if you look at the overall time frame, right, you had to kind of hold the card for, wait, let me see, 2011. So this card came out in 2011. Now it's almost 10 years. And the ROI is like really not fantastic. It really isn't. So you have to bear in mind, that sometimes you don't want to buy too much of the same card. If you buy too much of the same card, and that's it. The newer expansions are not protected by the reserve list policy. Okay? So there can be reprints of the cards. So when there are reprints of the cards, it could potentially have more supply in the market, and it could drop the price. Because why? At the end of the day, it's a card game. You want to create accessibility. You want everybody to have fun. You don't want to restrict it to only the top few people who have money to play. That will be very bad for a business, because you want to have the lowest barrier of entry. Say, people can get started for less than $100, because why? A computer game is usually anywhere from $69 to $70, and of course, if you talk about indie games, it's anywhere from $10 to $20, just to have some fun, But you want to allow more people to come in. That's how you build. It's always a volume game. It's either the less people willing to pay more for the cards, or you have a large amount of people spending very little amounts of money. There's only two ways to grow a business. And Magic the Gathering has both sides. You have a very healthy secondary market, but at the same time, you have a very healthy, growing young market that has a very low barrier of entry. So anyway, guys, this is a very lengthy episode. For those who are watching, I think you guys are awesome. That you all took the time to kind of listen to this, and perhaps maybe this could actually interest you, and you could start your own collection and start interacting with people and enjoying that one-to-one interaction with your friends or family, or making new friends as well. This is stuff that you can do. You can just approach a local game store, support your local game store, guys, because I think these are, it's nice to just go and have fun. The sweaty smell of all the men. Well, I mean, maybe okay, it's not really but that's the truth, guys. Okay, the sweat, the sweatiness of going there after school, and your hair is just all messed up, and you're like having fun. You're opening packs. Yeah, it's a nice feeling. It's really a nice feeling. I mean, I don't do that anymore, but I think it's a nice feeling to still be able to do that. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down if you want to watch more of these kind of episodes. Like I said, this is just a once a month kind of thing, something to get your mind off crypto. And, there are other alternative investments as well that I may talk about in the near future. And I want to keep that flexible for the channel. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you in the next live stream.